Hi there, Vanessa here with my Strictly Roundup, the very final one, because we've just seen the semi-final. Push the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. You'll find out exactly what I think. And if you disagree, tell me. So farewell then, beautiful Pete Wicks. I suppose Pete's time had come. I wondered if the Terpsichorean gods might somehow orchestrate a last-minute miracle and somehow or other Pete and Jovita might survive the chop. I feared it wasn't going to happen. And of course, when it was Tasha and Aliash who ended up in the dance-off, I think every sentient being in the United Kingdom realized that it was going to be farewell to Pete. Doesn't mean we feel good about it. Doesn't mean we're not going to miss him. Doesn't mean we wouldn't have absolutely adored to see him dance in the final and maybe even win and carry away the glitter ball, because he's just been sublime, you know. And every time Shirley said, "You are Mr. Strictly Come Dancing, you are Mr. Strictly," what was she trying to signal to the voters all over the nation? Was she trying to say, keep him in, we just love him, he's lovely, he's funny, he's self-deprecating, he's vulnerable, he's sensitive, he's incredibly handsome, he's really doing well, we love him, we want him, this is meant to be about a journey, vote for him, vote for him. Is that what Shirley was saying? And then we did vote for him, didn't we? I did. I zealously and vigorously voted for him, and I will miss him, but I do think that this Strictly has been the absolute making of him. I mean, he has shown all his finer points and many fine curves and finely honed muscles, but also great self-deprecating sense of humor, tremendous dedication and capacity for hard work, a real personal magnetism, which actually I've met him a few times, and you can see it when you're with him. He really does exude this kind of star quality that shines across the room. He genuinely does. What is his actual talent? I think his talent is for being Pete Wicks, and for Pete Wicks to be somebody that people just want to watch. You know, people have said a definition of what makes somebody a star is, if it's a bloke, that men would like to be him and women would like to sleep with him. Although they don't use the word sleep with, they usually say shag. So men would like to be him and women would like to shag him. And I think that's true of Pete Wicks. He's really approachable. You think if you had a drink with him in the pub, you'd love it. You think he'd like you. You think he'd be entertaining and fun, all of which is true, he is. And if you're a woman, you would really, really go there. And if you're a man, you'd just like to be his mate. And I think he's fabulous. So farewell, Pete Wicks. It's a shame you didn't make it to the final. Tasha keeps finding herself in the bottom two, in the dance-off, because I suppose she's just a bit too perfect. You know, she's been a brilliant dancer right from the start. Nobody has ever doubted her ability to dance. She's really fantastically good at it. She's an incredibly accomplished dancer. But I think that's never quite the spirit of Strictly. You want to have seen at least some kind of journey, some development, some discovery, some perfecting of a rusty old technique or something. And she just started off too damn perfect. That was the problem. She's continued to be perfect. People will dry their eyes off just sobbing through one of her routines with Aliash because they're so moving, so emotional, so delicate, so perfect, and still not vote for her because she's just deemed a little too good at dancing. And you may say, well, how can you possibly be too good at dancing in a dancing competition? And the answer is that is the unique thrust of Strictly. Usually, the best dancer does not win, and I still would not be surprised at all if Tasha and Aliash don't win Strictly. I think it's absolutely phenomenal that Sarah Hadland has made it through to the final with the gorgeous Vito. Traditionally, older women get short shrift on Strictly. They normally just get shunted off, often far too soon. And Debbie McGee, I think, was the only person in living memory who I think did make it through to the final. And she used to be a professional ballerina. I mean, she's an actual ballet dancer, so she certainly deserved to get through. She's a bloody good dancer, technically, Debbie McGee, but she didn't win, unfortunately. So Sarah and Vito are quite rightly through to the final. I'm really pleased to see it. She has danced like an absolute dream. I mean, she has the flexibility, kind of lism, lithe, kind of athletic ability of somebody 30 years younger than she is. She's really phenomenally agile and graceful and ethereal, and she's a bloody damn good dancer. And I love the chemistry between her and Vito. I think it's fabulous. Do I think that she's going to win? Unfortunately not. No, I don't think so. I think she hasn't quite got that kind of, what would you call it, like a loved up relationship with the public. I think people are pleased to see it, they like it, they admire it, but do they love Sarah and Vito? Maybe not quite enough. JB, what a bloke. Last Sunday morning, I got up at dawn because there was a premiere, a screening of Star Wars, The Skeleton, something or other, I don't know what it was. And my grandson, Zeke, who's 10 years old, wanted to go to it. And I was lucky enough to be invited. And I scrambled out of bed at some unearthly, ungodly hour on Sunday morning. And I schlepped off to somewhere in the nether regions of Waterloo to take my grandson to see this. Who do I see looking brightly and sprightly at sort of 9 a.m. on the Sunday morning following the night before? Only JB with his wife and his daughter. And I said to him, my God, I cannot believe you're here after last night. Saturday night was only last night. And how can you possibly be here? And he looked surprised that I was surprised. But this guy is a really great guy. He's a nice guy. He is a boy bander. Everybody knows JLS, the wonderful Marvin, the gorgeous Aritze, fabulous Ashton, of course. I mean, I'm, very familiar with all those boys. I love them very much indeed. They're particularly charming blokes, really, really nice. But my God, hasn't JB improved in leaps, literally, and bounds, literally. He is absolutely on the verge of taking flight. He's a pleasure and a delight to watch. And he did have that huge hiccup where the lovely Amy Dowden was so unwell that she wasn't able to carry on as his partner. And everybody, you can see when you watch Strictly, when you've watched it for more than 2 minutes, forms this incredibly tight, kind of umbilically close bond with their partner. So for your partner to be ill and have to leave and to have to try and build up that kind of trust and that level of kind of cooperation and collaboration with a total stranger, which is what Lauren was originally, is a big ask. And he made it look seamless. He really did. And he seems to have got on as well with Lauren as he did with Amy and to have danced beautifully with both. I think JB stands a very strong chance of winning. Chris McCausland is a revelation. The whole country is in love with him. It's impossible not to be because he is a genuinely funny and good-natured comedian. They're very, very hard to find. Most comedians behind the scenes are growly, miserable, grouchy, carefully hiding their material so they can use it on the night on stage. They won't even spare you one dribble or crumb of a joke. They're never funny at all. Most of them need scriptwriters to write their jokes anyway, so they're not at all naturally funny. But Chris McCausland is an absolute hoot. Chris is hilarious. He just pipes up with something absolutely hysterical at least once, usually more than once, every show. He is good-natured. He is a hell of a good dancer. He is an adornment to life. He is somebody who is an example of achieving the absolutely unachievable against all the odds. Do I think that Chris and Diane could win the day? Most certainly I do. And because the final of Strictly is all about the public vote and the judges don't have anything to do but sit there looking pretty, especially Craig, I think there's a very strong likelihood that in this best of all possible worlds, Chris and Diane might carry the glitter ball home. Well, it seems as if the days of the really, truly nasty judge are over. We know that Simon Cowell is a watered-down version of his former self. He's much less likely to shock the country, bring the nation to its knees by saying something very true and extremely acerbic, judgmental, critical, pejorative. He doesn't really do that anymore. And Craig Revel Horwood has just come right out with it and said, I can't be the critical judge I used to be. I can't be as caustic. I can't be as dismissive. I can't be as scornful. I can't be as insulting or as critical as I used to be because people just won't put up with it anymore. I would be accused of bullying. I would be accused of insensitivity. Instead of being a wonderful show that everybody loves, I would suddenly become the recipient of a hideous trolling from all over the universe. I might even end up being cancelled. So he has been effectively silenced. Is that altogether a bad thing that he doesn't bring a poor dancer crashing down to earth with a vengeance? I mean, why is it a bad thing if he's not super critical? I think it's perfectly fine. What he normally does now these days is he'll say something critical, the audience will hiss and boo, and he'll end up by saying, darling, it was absolutely stupendous or something of that kind. So he's kind of ameliorating and just kind of taking the sting, nasty sting out of what he says. This is not a bad thing. I mean, you may think it's a bit woke and a bit sort of snowflakey, but it doesn't come from the contestants. I think it comes from a general feeling that the public isn't really looking to see somebody who's just trying their best be assassinated on Saturday night television for just not doing quite well enough. It's perfectly fine within the bounds of a dancing competition to rein in the barbs and rein in the criticism and just be a little more civil. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Well, in the final of 2013, a really peculiarly sad thing happened. In the final that I was in, obviously I wasn't in the final, but you're invited back if you're one of the celebrity dancers, and you get to do a group dance, and you also get to sit there and watch the whole thing live and cheer and all of that. So it was very exciting to be there, as you can imagine, and the dances were amazing. But in the final in 2013, one of the 4 couples got eliminated early in the evening before getting a chance to do their show dance. And in 2013, the couple that were eliminated early and didn't get to dance, the dance they had been rehearsing literally morning, noon, and night, I think they'd been rehearsing something like 18 hours a day, were Sophie Ellis-Bextor and Brendan Cole. And so it was live on the night at the final that they found that they weren't going to be allowed to do their show dance, and they were out of the running. And God, it was absolutely incredibly emotional. And I don't think Sophie will mind me telling you this because, you know, she's a good friend of mine, but she was sobbing. She was devastated because I think the dance that they were really going to unleash once again was their classic Charleston. And they've been working on it. Her feet were bleeding. She'd barely seen her children. She was completely exhausted. They had lived mind, body and soul this final. And then bam, early in the evening, they weren't able to do their show dance because they were told, no, you're not in the actual final of the final. You're in the first fraction of the final. It was just horrific. So anyway, they don't do that anymore. It might be that they changed because she was obviously so devastated. So now all 4 couples will compete to the death. Nobody gets eliminated before anybody else. And I think that's much fairer and much less heartbreaking. I'm Vanessa Feltz. That was my Strictly Roundup. Do push the subscribe button, go over to my YouTube channel and leave your questions and comments.